Hi, I'm Suzanne Taylor, and I'm a film producer. I make movies about crop circles. I make documentaries. Here's the biggest one ever, the size of 2 football fields, arrived in 2001. Here's another one. Look at that, that's like DNA. Can you see it here on camera? It really does replicate a kind of DNA spiral, and the illusion that it gives, although you're looking at a pattern of it, not a photograph, but in a photograph, the illusion is that it's 3D. See, they're getting bigger and smaller. That's not because that's the way it really is. That's because of the illusion of them circling each other, making it 3D. And now there are the little tricky things that crop circle makers do and give us little 3D effects. Well, I'm not a filmmaker who went out and found a subject. My latest film being What on Earth? Inside the Crop Circle Mystery, and I'm in New York because it's going to play at the Quad from the 22nd to the 28th. If you're watching archives, it's already over, 22nd to the 28th of April. But after that, you have to go to my website. We'll talk about that later. But as I say, I'm not a filmmaker who found a subject. I am a subject that said, I've got to make film about this. I've been involved in the crop circle phenomenon for 20 years, more than 20 years. And I got involved because I was really interested in consciousness. I was interested in how do we think and why do we think so destructively and dangerously? And what can we do to open our minds to a bigger reality? And when the crop circles came along, I thought, oh, this is the most interesting possibility. I mean, what could be a bigger reality than the fact that we're not alone in the universe? And if that turned out to really be the case, wow, would that change everybody's consciousness? Not individually. You know, we still would have to do the work on ourselves. We still have to investigate, you know, our psyches and our childhood wounds and all of the good things that we learn about ourselves when we go into any kind of self-exploration. But it would change the collective consciousness. The word I like is worldview. In my movie, we talk about changing the worldview and how dangerous a worldview we're in, where money really is the top of the chain. We've gone down an economic path and we've marginalized everything that's interior. And this works for a certain amount of time in a society. It develops technology, develops all the goodies that we have. But if we have the goodies at the expense of our souls, we're not very rich, are we? And the way it has to work is it has to kind of fall apart because it has to hit a dead end. Because the rich will, by this standard kind of belief system, the rich will try to amass more money, the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer, and that's the surest way for a culture to fall apart. We have to be in it together, and we have to be taking care of each other, not you know, communism or socialism. There'll still be richer people and poorer people, but we can't, you know, have so relatively few people taking it all, because the masses underneath that will not be happy. So when I realized that this phenomenon could be of such significance in the world, how do you really tell the world about anything? You make movies. And so in 1996, actually, I came back from England. I was now plugged into this whole phenomenon. It had fascinated me. I had produced programs about it in Los Angeles, where I'm kind of a producer of underground events and projects that aren't so underground anymore. The world's kind of caught up with self-awareness and self-exploration. And I started way before it was so popular. But now, you know, it's pervaded our culture, even though it hasn't taken over. But I'm in a takeover mode. So when I came back from England in 1996, I made a vow, actually. And it was, if my life was going to be about anything that was unique and that I could do something that other people couldn't do because of what I know, I would tell the world about crop circles. And as I said, how do you tell the world about anything? You make movies. So in 1996, I started looking for a filmmaker. Well, you can't just go up to some filmmaker and say, can I hire you to make a movie about crop circles? What? You know, you have to find somebody who's interested in the subject matter and, you know, who's open to it. Well, that was not easy to find. You know, interestingly enough, this fascinating phenomenon has not attracted the glittery people, you know. There's no movie stars who've taken an interest. If there were, I think the world would know about it. The world knows about what movie stars are interested in. I can't get on a talk show that with this fascinating subject matter because I'm not in pop culture, you know. So here we are, I was needing to find myself a movie producer, and I just kept asking around, you know, anybody know anything about this? Anybody into the paranormal? Anybody curious? Anybody blah, blah, blah? And finally, I was at a party, and somebody said, oh, a friend of mine has an Academy Award nomination for a documentary film, and he was just in England last summer because his girlfriend is a crop circle researcher, and she brought him to England, and he got turned on. And he came home, he was trying, he thought he would get a contract to do an IMAX film because he had credentials, you know, it's important. Didn't come through, and I kept, you know, by now I've met him because I've got a little hook, or a fish I'm trying to hook now. Well, what if you don't get your funding for the thing you have in mind? How about me? Well, finally it came down to me. And so I created the backers for it. We went to England in the summer of 2001. We had a 10-week shoot. I was running the shoot because the truth is, I knew more about crop circles than he did. So I could point him at the interesting people. I knew kind of what the stories were, what should he capture on camera. And so that 10-week shoot in England turned into the first feature film that was ever done about the crop circles. It was in theaters. It had a 3-week run on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's called Crop Circles: Quest for Truth. The filmmaker is William Gizecki. He had an Academy Award nomination for a film called Waco: The Rules of Engagement, about the Branch Davidian compound in Texas that was burned by the government, a horrible thing, until Michael Moore came along and the Penguins and all of those pop documentaries, I don't know what, mass market documentaries. That was the 5th most popular documentary ever. It was a big deal, and it did get an Academy Award nomination. So what I want to do now is I want to show you the trailer from that movie.
These things are footprints of intelligences.
A mutual exploration of what is possible.
To understand the message is to assume there might be a message.
The plants were beautifully swirled around.
As you can see, it's a 90-degree bend.
What makes crop circles? It's an impossible question.
There were scientists, they were out there with all sorts of equipment. They had cameras, they had radar, they had other measuring devices.
We got a 25-minute gap where 140 circles appeared.
I think we're talking about other civilizations who are not based on Earth.
It seems to locate where there's water.
These shapes that we're seeing were actually shadows of a higher dimensional object.
And I saw this object coming to view.
We have on film this ball of light.
Then it took off.
It might be supernatural, I don't know for sure.
And how did they get away with it? How are they not caught? How have they done it?
They don't practice, there's never a half-finished one, no mistakes.
It's just here and it arrived in a few hours in perfect condition.
Well, we got very excited when that movie was due to screen, to be released in 2002, because, and we actually speeded up our editing of it and getting it out to the public because Signs was on tap to be released in the summer of 2002, and we wanted to come out right after Signs, thinking that we would build on the exposure that Signs had, where the public would now be clamoring to find out more about crop circles. Well, I'll tell you what happened. Initially, Signs, you know that Mel Gibson movie that has aliens and creatures and what have you making crop circles? I mean, they didn't do anything in that movie that was real about circles except show you some pictures of the real ones, and then they named them differently. They said they were in different places. They just used them as a prop. But the initial thought with that movie, the plan for that movie, was that it was going to be really focused on the crop circles, not on the aliens. And the whole advertising campaign was going to be all about crop circles. I mean, could this have been more perfect? Then we were going to come in and tell you what crop circles were really all about, and we would be, you know, the world would change. Well, that was our idea. Well, they changed their plan, and you didn't hear much about it. Although, if you look at the poster, you can see the remnant of their initial plan, because the poster is a huge picture of a crop circle. But the actual advertising and the storyline of the movie and whatever, the crop circles just became a kind of a prop. Oh dear, okay. And then there was more to say about how I've gone on from there. When we came out with our movie, we finished our movie, that is more or less a history of the crop circles. You're going to learn a lot about them, where they came from, how long they've been around, what's going on, all the data about the crop circles. But I thought, there's another movie to be made, which this one kind of touched on, but there's a movie to be made which is the passion of the crop circle community. And there is a community. The phenomenon is focused in England. The most and the best arrive in England. They're smattered over 40 other countries, but you can't wait for them or study them, or you don't know where they're going to come. Well, you know where they're going to come in England. They come in the concentration is in just 2 small counties. They have planes flying overhead in England all the time. People say, well, I wonder why it's concentrated there. Well, because you can find them. You can study them. You can focus on them because you know that you'll see them. They're right in this area. Private planes, which fly low enough to actually spot them. Heavy air traffic all the time. And there are other reasons as well. It's a manipulated landscape. You know best Stonehenge, that's part of that. But Stonehenge is but one of many other human-made artifacts that indicate that there was a lot of sacred ceremony going on in antiquity in this area. And I think the crop circles may be there really to call us back to a time when we felt ourselves to be part of nature. People say, well, what's the point? Well, we don't know. We won't know until the makers tell us. But my best guess is that, in fact, they are really trying to help us. They're trying to restore us to a time when we were more whole, when we weren't so separated into the money gets the goods, and when we really, felt ourselves to be sacred creatures as opposed to money-making creatures. So here we are in England, in this beautiful sacred landscape, with people who gather from all over the world. We call ourselves croppies every summer, who write the books, who do the lectures, who make the movies. And I thought, there's another movie to be made here, which really is about this passion. Why have people done this? Why have they given their lives over to this phenomenon? You know what it's like? It's like in Close Encounters. I've got to get there. So somewhat akin to that, this is a very passionate community. People have given up very good lives. They've left their mates. I mean, one of the funders of the first movie left her husband in the States and moved to live right in the middle of one of the main crop circles, Avebury, where there's a little village right in the middle of it, much bigger than Stonehenge, and very famous over there. We don't know about it so much over here. Well, why would people do this, Well, because they're jazzed, they're turned on, and they have stories to tell. I mean, that gal has a story to tell about when she went home afterwards, before she came back. She had some kind of effect on her body, and lights would go on and off when she would be in a room, and gradually it would diminish. But something was going on. Electromagnetism had done something, just as it does to equipment inside crop circles. You know, you can go in with a full battery, and what's happened? The camera doesn't work. The battery is drained. Or we tell a story in What on Earth about a cell phone where a scientist has gone into a crop circle. His mother was in there with him. Oh, I can't get the cell phone to work. Oh, what does she know? She's my mother. I'll get it to work. And he tries to get it to work. It doesn't work. And he goes around the entire formation, and he holds the phone outside the formation over what we call the standing crop, the crop that has not been pushed down. The phone works. He pulls it back. The phone doesn't work. He went around the whole formation, and that's what resulted. We have another story in there of a film crew that never, ever did they make, you know, a product of film, get back to the studio, and discover there's nothing on their film, white light. Well, this happens all the time. Not all the time. I mean, it's not like you can count on it and don't take your cell phones in, but it happens often enough that you know that there's some kind of interference going on. And so we have all these wonderful stories to tell. You know, the cable channels, every few years, they'll go back and they'll make some reprehensible program about the crop circles. They don't know what they're doing. They like controversy. They like hoaxers. They make, you know, programs about these things. But I knew the real stories because I'm part of that community. So I could bring you a film that really was you know, the tagline of my movie is called What on Earth? ? And the tagline is Inside the Crop Circle Mystery. Well, we're inside it because I'm inside it. I'm telling you the stories from the, you know, the underpinnings of it, not peering in from the outside and not looking for being controversial, but looking for being truthful and honest. At the same time, it's exciting. You know, these are very colorful people. I mean, not every accountant stops, any accountants watching. But, you know, people who are, you know, into thinking like that, they don't tend to become the people who hop over and give up their lives. It's creative people, it's artistic people, and it's fascinating people, real mavericks. And so my movie is all really focused on the mavericks and what has their experience been, what are the stories that they have to tell. And in fact, I think I now want to show you a little clip. We've done very well with this movie. On the internet, we decided to release it there because we have a huge niche audience. The UFO audience likes my movie. And if you have a niche audience, you can release it on the internet. And it's faster and you get more people watching it than the long festival circuit. So we were showing it at a little festival in LA, and we caught the people coming out, and we cut a little promo clip, and I want to show that to you now.
Definitely the best movie I've seen in the area of crop circles.
It's very, very thought-provoking.
Very thoughtful, profound, extremely well researched.
Just really, in many ways, you know, talks about the human condition. It's a work of art.
This film has touched me on such a deep level. It is the most spiritual, most scientific, most wonderful film I have seen since I can remember.
So it was a masterpiece, actually. And I'm a film professor, so I don't say that lightly.
And I'm obviously a fan. I bought the T-shirt. I never buy the T-shirt.
It was more than I anticipated, that I even went out and I bought the DVD so I can share it with my friends.
I really do see how this subject, more than any other thing on the planet, is what could change the world.
Well, if you're watching in the archives and you're too late to get to the Quad Cinema in New York, April 22nd to 28th of 2011, take a look at cropcirclemovie.com, where you see the trailer to my movie, the new one, What on Earth, and you'll also be able to get the DVD, which I totally encourage you to do. So I'm Suzanne Taylor, the producer-director, and I'm very happy to have been talking to you.